It was only a matter of time before the wizard realized he could make a headphone, and here we are with the noble FoKus Apollo. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, I'm Matthew from Bloom Audio, and I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. I got a new hoodie. Alright, enough with the jokes. Obviously, we're not here at Bloom HQ. We're here in my bedroom where I've gotten a lot of time with Noble's first headphone entry, the FoKus Apollo. Not only is this a Noble first, but it's actually a world first in the fact that it is a patented dual hybrid driver design featuring both a dynamic and planar magnetic driver arrangement. Apollo comes with a bunch of impressive tech, features, accessories, sound, all that good jazz, so we're going to get right into it. And we're going to start off with its build and design. Noble kept things pretty simple here with Apollo, and while it may not be as captivating as Noble's other products like the Prestige TWS IEMs, Noble still maintained a good overall design look to Apollo here, and it just is mostly simplistic in its approach. Where Noble really did excel with Apollo here is its comfort and fit. Upon first putting this headphone on, I did worry that a hotspot was soon to develop here at the top of the headband, but that actually wasn't true at all. I have video edited in these for extensive hours. I've listened to them for an extensive period of time, and these are really comfortable. I've been able to have them on my head for long-winded sessions and really experience no fatigue at all. The ear cups here are a soft memory foam that really just have a nice feel to them. They actually went through a recent revision in comparison to the prototype I got to hear in Singapore and even before that, and I just think Noble really knocked it out of the park here. Super soft, super comfortable, kind of just melt away on your head. They don't get overly hot or sweaty, which is definitely a nice bonus there as well. These pads are also replaceable, which is simply fantastic. Obviously, Bluetooth headphones get a lot of extensive wear, and when a battery life of over 80 hours is presented, these are going to stay on your head for a long time, so just being able to quickly swap these out in the future is definitely a really nice touch from Noble here. Now, using Apollo and its button arrangement is very intuitive and simplistic. You get 4 buttons on the right side of the ear cup. You get the volume down, you get the power on and pairing button, you get the volume up, and of course you get your ANC and Transparency button. And on the left side, you just get a kill switch button here that mutes all the microphones on it because Apollo does come with an attachable boom mic. Now that leads us a little bit better into the accessories included here with Apollo, and Noble really went all out here in the unboxing and packaging. Of course, you get the aforementioned boom mic, you get a 3.5 to 3.5 cable, as this can be used completely passively. You get your USB-C cord, a carrying case, and you also get a 3.5 to 4.4 millimeter adapter here, which I definitely wasn't expecting, but I guess this makes source swapping a little bit easier, which is definitely welcomed. Although going from 3.5 to 4.4 just doesn't feel right. I don't know, something about that is just a little bit unique to me. So that is pretty interesting to see here in the packaging. The boom microphone here is definitely to add a little bit of a gaming element to Apollo, as that was mentioned in the marketing of this headphone. Here's just a little bit of a comparison between the boom microphone of the Apollo and of the Maxwell. Okay, here we go. I'm testing the microphone. Ice, ice, icicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Test, testing 1, 2, 3. All right, let's see how that goes. All right, here we go. We are testing the Aussie Maxwell. Ice, ice, icicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Test, testing 1, 2, 3. Let's see how that goes. Make what you want of those two microphones compared in a world that is dominated by cheap USB microphones you can pretty much just pick up online. Do your friends in Discord a favor, just get one of those, EQ it a little bit, and you're off to the races. Though I don't want to downplay the intention of the microphone here, I do think it's a nice touch and does go a long way in making this feel like a more complete all-in-one unit. For gaming, Apollo was pretty good. It sufficed. I think there was a little bit of a latency issue where it didn't feel as snappy or responsive as Maxwell did, but this isn't a completely gaming-focused headphone. It just has the intention of being that all-in-one source that you can use for music listening on the go, music listening at your desk, and gaming. So yeah, don't go looking for my Odyssey Maxwell and HeadFi classifieds, because it won't be there. So not only does Apollo come with a lot of goodies, but it also comes packed with a lot of features as well. FoKus Apollo comes with Bluetooth 5.3, which is just excellent. I didn't have any dropouts or really any connectivity issues. It was just a very seamless and intuitive process for pairing and connecting. You also get multi-point, which I think worked pretty darn well in my listening sessions. I could easily connect it to my phone, also have it connected to my DAP, which was my primary source for listening, and I could just kind of go in between the two pretty seamlessly. If I was listening to music on my DAP but wanted to watch a sports highlight on my phone, all I really had to do was just pause the music, play the media on my phone, and boom, I'm watching Shohei Ohtani hit his 43rd home run of the season. Even though by the time this video releases, he'll probably be at like 46 or 47. The guy's a freak, so. Apollo also supports LDAC, which I know a lot of people look for in wireless headphones. You have it here. It's great for Android and DAP use, which is definitely great if you do have that dedicated source. Of course, if you're listening on iPhone, you're going to be locked to the AAC codec. I'm not a huge codec enthusiast. I think LDAC sometimes can be a little bit more of a hassle than it can be a pro for the headphone. However, I didn't experience any dropouts here, which was definitely a nice welcome. Sound quality sounded great, and the overall connection process was just very easy. And the ANC button that I mentioned before on the headphone would lead you to believe that this headphone has ANC. It does. That was the most obvious thing I've probably ever said in my life. Switching through the 3 different modes Noble offers here with natural, ANC, and transparency mode is as easy as clicking that button. So definitely a huge bonus, and just not having touch controls here to navigate any of that. Sometimes that can just be an overall pain in the neck. So having a physical button here, I definitely think is welcomed, at least on my end. ANC is pretty solid. I wouldn't say it's the best I've ever heard. I wouldn't say it's the worst I've ever heard. It kind of hits that middle road where you get a lot of nice isolation. The office can get a little bit rambunctious at times, and that's mostly due to myself, but there's also contributing factors to the amount of noise in the office. ANC really did a great job at blocking that out, as well as here at home. I sometimes have a barking dog. You know, there's sometimes just lawnmowers going out in my development and such. Did a great job of blocking all that noise out, so ANC is pretty solid here in Apollo. Wow. Thank you, Oliver, for letting the whole world know. Now, transparency mode isn't as good. I actually didn't really have a great experience with it at all. I think you really need to be on low listening volumes for it really to be viable. I wouldn't expect AirPod Pro Gen 2 or even AirPods Max for that matter like performance here. Not even Sennheiser performance, or really even the Bathurst performance, which we'll get into a little bit later. Didn't really just do a great job of picking up my voice or others' voices in the office, so not really the best experience there, but it is a nice welcomed feature to have here, as Noble has primarily focused mostly on like pass-through modes and other technology like that. So just having transparency mode here is a nice and welcomed feature. So Noble really went the whole 9 yards here with the features and the battery life. Coming in at a staggering 80 hours, Apollo is definitely very impressive in this regard. Odyssey Maxwell is probably the only other headphone I can say that competes here with Apollo. I've left this thing on and playing and really just given it my all to drain this battery, and honestly, it is competing very well. I've only lost like 30% of charge over the past 3 days. It's really impressive. And if you're traveling, the fact that you can have 80 hours of Bluetooth playback and completely passive performance with the headphone turned off, this is basically an unlimited battery life cheat code right now. And I think if you are primarily using this to travel, that is a huge bonus to have for you, and is definitely a very compelling argument for Apollo's case. Passive mode does offer a nice improvement and refinement in the total sound signature, but overall it wasn't groundbreaking. It's not like this becomes a $1,000 or even an $800 wired headphone. It just offers a nice breakup from the Bluetooth wireless listening mode, so I do think that is really nice to have, and I did use it a good bit in my listening sessions, but this is still primarily a Bluetooth-focused headphone. So now that finally brings us to sound. I am judging my listening sessions primarily off Bluetooth, though there are some characteristics that I would base this off in passive mode, but for the majority, this is a Bluetooth-focused headphone, and that's basically what I'm going to be judging off. To sum up Apollo's entire sound signature, that is tough, but I would say it leans mostly warm, and it's still very much a dynamic driver focused headphone with planar characteristics blended into it. And for those of you who are saying, wow, that tells me absolutely nothing, let's break it down a little bit further from here. Starting off in the bass, this is where that dynamic driver really comes into play. Apollo has a nice hard-hitting mentality to it. I don't think it's overall boomy or even bloated at all. I think it maintains well controlled, but there is a clear emphasis here in the low end. You get a nice attacking, hard-hitting bass that really really just offers a sense of emotion and engagement to the sound signature without it ever feeling muddy or congested at all. I think a nice song to demonstrate the overall focus, attack, and hit of the bass response is It True by Tame Impala off the Slow Rush. I think this song really offers just great dynamics here with Apollo, really just makes the entire low end come alive and really show you what it can offer here in the bass. That kind of does actually bring me to the low mids, where I do feel like this is probably my least favorite part of Apollo's sound signature. It feels a little bit recessed here. I feel like note weight could overall be a little bit thicker, but I'd way rather opt for what Apollo does than what other Bluetooth wireless headphones offer, most notably here in the lower mids, where they can just be overall very congested and muddied, and it just makes the overall sound signature very incoherent. Apollo never encroaches that. It just kind of hits a little bit behind what I would think is the right mark for my ears. Overall, though, I do think this is demonstrated on a track like Quantum Mechanics from the Oppenheimer film score. I think here you can get a nice sense of the amount of hit from strings, or just the feel and tactile sense of the low mids here. I overall think Apollo does a pretty good job here, but I would just opt for a little bit more if I were to EQ this or tune it myself, though you don't want a headphone tuned from me. You definitely want it tuned from John Moulton. The mids are very well presented here in Apollo. I don't think vocals are overly forward or shouty really at all. I think they kind of hit that nice sweet spot in between all the rest of the bodies of music. Everything just seems well distinguished, well characterized, and they do have some nice coloration here in the mids that I just think offers that more warm, tailored sound, but in a digestible way that never feels overly soft or mushy at all. So now moving into the treble. I actually think this is one of Apollo's biggest highlights, and usually I don't think I would find myself saying that in a Bluetooth headphone. I think most Bluetooth headphones usually often opt for a more rolled off or smooth treble response, and I feel like Apollo kind of goes against the grain. It actually has pretty good clarity and extension here in the treble. And while I still did categorize Apollo as warm, I don't think you necessarily have to completely soften or smooth the treble for a headphone to sound a little bit more warm, and I think Apollo is a great demonstration of this. I feel like this is where the planar magnetic driver really comes in. You get this nice extension here, just overall air and brilliance in the treble. I feel like Noble has tuned enough TWS IEMs and just IEMs in general to really find the sweet spot here, and I think they definitely did. To finish up with soundstage and imaging, I feel like Apollo actually presents a well separated and discerning image here. Cynical One off of TV Girl's Death of a Party Girl album really just feels like the best presentation of what Apollo can do in its soundstage and imaging. Everything just feels well separated, well discerned. You just kind of get that nice center image of the strings and just some other elements to the mix coming from your left and right, and overall I just feel like it is pretty wide. It's pretty well separated, especially for a Bluetooth headphone. So what happens when you put Apollo up against Bathus? That's a great question. Let's compare the two. Focal Bathus is obviously a wireless headphone from the brand Focal, who's had their hand in the headphone game for a little bit longer than Noble has at this point. A lot longer. They've been in the game a lot longer. Noble FoKus Apollo comes in at $649. Bathus now comes in at $629, and these can both be used in wired mode, though there's a clear difference between the two here. While FoKus Apollo can be used completely passively, Bathus still stays active, meaning you can't turn off its ANC controls. You also have to leave the battery on when powering it in wired mode, which is a little bit of a bummer here. I think the fully passive advantage of FoKus Apollo definitely already makes it a key contributor to the person who's looking to take this on travel and can use it for a very extensive period of time. Bathus still has pretty good battery life, though, yeah, Apollo's just a bit better here. While aesthetics of the headphone is pretty much completely subjective, in my experience, I also did have better fit and comfort with the Bathus. I just think it rested on my head a little bit more naturally. I also just think it looks a little bit better, and the materials just feel a little bit more premium on Bathus, though Apollo really does hold its own in that material used, and I think both are very well designed. If FoKus Apollo to my ears was described as warm and engaging, I would say Bathus is a little bit more neutral and just less emotional in general. In the bass, again, Apollo is hard hitting. It has that nice slam and attack, Bathus still has those pretty good dynamics. It still hits decently hard, but just when compared to Apollo, it's not really all there. It's not as bass-centric as I would say Apollo is. So like I mentioned in the breakdown of Apollo's sound signature, those warm, engaging, and kind of colored and lush mids are now compared to a slightly more articulated and well-defined mid-range of the Bathus that I think gets the slight edge here, at least in my preferences. I just feel like the timbre and overall coherency of Bathus's mid-range was really well presented. Obviously, this is really just going to come down to taste and preferences. I just thought Bathus sounded a little bit more natural in this regard, a little bit less colored and just more articulated here. So I really did like Bathus's mid-range presentation, but I don't think Apollo falls too far behind here. As I mentioned before, I was really impressed by Apollo's treble presentation, and I think that remains true here when compared to Bathus. Thought Bathus was just a little bit smoother, a little bit less defined in this area of the music. However, I do still think a lot of people can find enjoyment in Bathus's treble presentation. I don't think it's bad really at all. I just think Apollo just does it slightly better here and caters more towards my preferences in this regard. ANC was decently comparable between the two. I think Apollo isolated just a little bit better. Again, I don't think this is a make or break comparison of the two. I think you could get equal performance out of this, and they probably isolate around the same dBs, maybe a little bit less from Bathus. However, transparency was definitely the biggest discrepancy between the entire comparison. Bathus takes the cake here 10 out of 10 times. I just think I had a much better experience with transparency on the Bathus than I did the FoKus Apollo. As I mentioned before, I'm not a huge codec enthusiast, but if that does matter to you, Bathus doesn't support LDAC where Apollo does, and that could be a make or break point of contention for most folks. For me, not really a huge point of failure here for Bathus. I think LDAC support is nice on the Apollo, but not a huge discerning factor for Apollo over Bathus, at least in my eyes, but if it is to you, there you go. When comparing the two, it really comes down to what you want. Breaking them down in a few quick points here, I'd say sound for sound, if you're looking for something more engaging, more punchy, more emotional, Apollo should probably be your pick here. If you're looking for something a little bit more natural or just laid back in its presentation, I do think Bathus offers a very compelling argument here and probably is your choice here if you're looking for that. In terms of features and tech, I think Apollo's a little bit more fleshed out, though transparency was much better on Bathus. If that's really a huge point of contention there for you, then definitely look into the Bathus. But overall, as a package, I think Apollo presents something a little bit more fleshed out here. Aesthetic features and looks here is obviously going to come down to mostly user experience, though I did think Bathus presented a slightly better presentation here just of its looks, and I found its comfortability to just be slightly better than Apollo. If you are strictly traveling, I think FoKus Apollo may just do it for you in its battery life and its ability to go completely passive. I think that's a huge point of contention, again, if you're taking these on the road a lot, so definitely something to keep in mind there. So when it's all said and done, comparing Apollo to Bathus, talking about sound signature, talking about its build and design, is this the best TWS wireless headphone on the market? I don't know if we can say that, at least quite yet. And why I say yet is because this isn't just Noble's first Bluetooth headphone, it's Noble's first headphone. The fact that this is the entry point for Noble's first headphone is pretty remarkable and already puts Noble on a very good step into entering the conversation for offering the best wireless headphone on the market. So I don't think Apollo has earned the crown just yet, but I do think it's only a matter of time for Noble to really design something that is going to be the best on the market. I think Apollo presents a lot of great features, a lot of great tech, an emotional and engaging sound signature that should present a very compelling case to a lot of different wireless headphone buyers. Thanks for watching. You can check out Noble, FoKus Apollo, and a lot of other great products at bloomaudio.com. If you have any more questions on Noble, FoKus Apollo, make sure to drop a comment or hit us up at hello@bloomaudio.com. Me and my colleagues are ready and willing to answer any questions you may have, whether it's over email or live chat. Be sure to like and subscribe, as we'll be back soon with more high-fidelity audio content.